and I have appeared. Hello everyone, good evening. How has your Tuesday been so far? Let me know. I hope you're all doing well as always. And also let me know if I'm audible to you and visible to you, so then we can dive right into our writing part 2 actually. We've already covered letters. Today we are going to cover the second part of our writing section. Just give me a minute so your comments are being made visible to me. Till that happens, let me know how you all have been doing. I hope you're staying safe. And let me know anything else you feel like telling me today on a Tuesday evening. And as always, very excited to be here with all of you. Yes, I can see you now. Hi Papiya, thank you for all the thumbs ups. Hi Anjana, Akriti, Yashar, Disha. Okay, great. All right, let's get started. And welcome all of you to your math session. No, I am kidding. It's not your math session. It's your English session. But it's going to look a lot like your math session, and you might have to apply some mathematical knowledge. Not a lot, very little. So nothing to worry about. And let's dive right into it. So as we'd already seen, we finished this and we finished this. So we've conquered so much already. And today we are going to focus on analytical paragraph. And because it is analytical, it deals with analyzing data. And so you'll be presented with a lot of data that you'll have to analyze, which is why it's going to look a little like your maths paper. Okay, so let's get right into it. Now, what do you need to focus on? So just keep this in mind briefly. You need to focus on both your content and your expression. This is what's going to get you all the marks. Okay, so your content obviously you're going to derive from the data that is given to you and some of your own knowledge of interpreting that data. But expression, you need to make sure you're grammatically correct, your spellings are right, your sentences are making sense and they're not very haphazard and all over the place. They follow a progression. So one sentence leads to the other sentence and it all makes sense. Okay. All right. So if you're having problems with the color of my pen, tell me what color should I use? What gives you better visibility? So right now it's yellow. If that's not very good, then we can make it blue also. Is this better? Let me know and then accordingly I'll take it forward, okay? So I'm keeping it blue just so you can see. Alright, so here we have our analytical paragraph. And what kind of data are you going to be presented with? It can be a bar chart. So just quickly draw what it will look like for you. Very bad drawing, I'm sorry, but see, that would be a bar chart. Pie chart would look exactly like this, but it will be divided into sections. Correct? Then you'll have a table. You all know what a table looks like, or it can be any other kind of a graph, like a line graph with different data points. Okay? Alright. So, Papiya wants it back to yellow, and I think yellow is giving you better visibility. So, let's stick to that. And then if you still have troubles, we'll see what we can do. Okay? So, you'll get all this data in the form of graphs, tables, charts. You have to look at it. You have to understand what it's saying, and then you have to write a paragraph about it. Okay, now your paragraph has to be somewhere between 100 and 120 words. So, not a lot, very doable, nothing to be scared of. Okay. So, here what do you have to do in your analytical paragraph? You have to write an introduction, you have to write a body, and you have to write a conclusion. But one thing that you need to remember is that introduction, body, conclusion doesn't mean 3 different paragraphs. Okay. What it means is one paragraph, the one analytical paragraph you're going to write needs to have an introduction, it needs to have a body that is explaining it, and it needs to have a conclusion that is summarizing it. Okay, so now what is this? It says over here identify trends, and you have to identify 4 trends. So let's quickly go over what a trend is. So a trend is any sort of information that you can derive from the chart that is given to you. Okay, and since you're all having trouble, let me quickly change it Let's try red now. So we've done all different colors. Let's try red and see if the visibility is better. Okay, so here we have it. So what is a trend? So a trend is any insightful meaning that you can get out of what the data is representing. So what is the data representing? It's going to show you something. It's going to show you something about something either increasing or decreasing over a certain period of time, or it's going to show you some kind of spending and how it has changed, or maybe it could be population and how it has changed over time. So there will be some sort of a change that is represented in a graph. Okay, and so that is what is a trend, and you need to identify at least 4 different kinds of trends from the data that is given to you. Okay, and we will see how you can do that very easily, just a very basic reading of the graph or table or whatever is given to you. Okay, so that is what will fill your body up, and that is a very important part of your analytical paragraph. Introduction and conclusion, like anything else you write, introduction states what you're going to be talking about and gives the basic idea what the context is, and a conclusion summarizes everything that you have explained. Okay, so let's get right into it. Here's our sample question, and everything will be made clear just by looking at this question. Okay, alright, so the chart below displays data about the number of digital devices purchased in Rishinagar across the years 2015 to 2019. Write a paragraph analyzing the given data. So just from this chart, the data given to us, we can see that it is a bar graph. Okay, you see the bars, it's a bar graph. Fairly simple to read according to me. Okay, so here we'll just quickly look at the bar graph and see what kind of information that we need to, what kind of information we need to keep our eyes out for. Okay, so here the first thing we'll see is which place, people or thing is the information about. Okay, what exactly is the point of the graph, why was the graph made, how many different things are being compared, so how many different elements in the graph. Okay, and then what units are used to the amounts, numbers or proportions. Okay, and what period of time does the visual refer to. Okay, so you can get all of this information simply by looking at different things in the graph. Let me point you to them. So the which place, people or thing the information is about, all of that you can get from the very title of the graph, which is digital devices purchased across years in Rishinagar. Okay, so from the title you get all of this information. Okay, and then the chart talks about 2 devices, as we can see over here. It talks about smartphones and it talks about computers. Okay, and then we can see from the key here that the gray bar talks about, is showing, depicting smartphones, and the black is depicting computers. Okay, and this is the how many computers and smartphones were purchased. Okay, correct. And then we can then look at both the axes. We can look at the x-axis over here and the y-axis, and then we can see, so the x-axis is showing us years. Okay, 2015 to 2019. I'll just do this so you know what I'm doing. And over here in the y-axis, we can see that it's talking about devices, and it says here that it's talking about devices and the figures are in the thousands. So it's not that, you know, a little over 40 smartphones were purchased. It's 40,000. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Okay, it's all of these figures in the y-axis, they are in the thousands. Okay, and then what period of time does the visual refer to? We already know that from the x-axis. It refers from 2015 to 2019. That is our time frame. Okay, so this is all the information that we've gotten, and as you can see, there might be a little discrepancy in the way you read the chart. Okay, so here we see that it's given, we're skipping 20. Okay, so over here you can probably assume that this middle point between all of these in the y-axis is going to be the number after that. So here it will be 30, here it will be 50, here it will be 70. Okay, and based upon that, I'm sure you already have an understanding of this. I'm not trying to teach you maths, but just refreshing it for you. So here, based on that, we can assume what our figures are going to be of the number of smartphones and computers that have been purchased. Okay, so here, because of the nature of the graph, we can't have an exact number. We don't know if, you know, this is 102,000 or 103,000 over here. We don't know that. Okay, but we can assume approximately what the figure is. Okay, great. Does that make sense? So some of you are already giving me trends. So that is very good. I am glad. So that's what we are going to do eventually. So what are we going to do? How are we going to read and analyze this data? First, we are going to read the title. The title itself will give us a lot of the information that we need, and we'll pretty much write our introduction. So we don't have to think about what we are going to write in the introduction. The title is pretty much going to give us all of that information. Okay. Next, the important thing that we have to do is study the chart and observe the trends. Okay, so all of you have probably looked at the chart already. If not, take a second to look at the chart, really analyze it. I know it might be a little difficult for you to see, but just an approximate idea. Okay, and as soon as you are done with this, I will give you a minute or so to look at it. Then we can discuss some trends. Okay, so I'm going to tell you 4 trends from my end that I have noticed and observed in this, and then if you have more trends, that is great, because the 4 trends that I'm going to give you are not the end of what the bar graph is telling us. Okay, there's a lot more information that can be derived from this. So if you find a different trend, let me know in the comments. Okay, all right, take a minute to look at this. Akash, discrepancy means just a little difference in what we think it is and what it actually is. A little bit of a difference. That's what I'm talking about. So here, because we can't exactly know the figure, there might be a discrepancy in the figure that actually exists and what we are able to tell from the graph. Okay. All right. So have you all had a chance to analyze? Okay, so let's get to the trends, okay? Okay, so the first thing that I noticed, and I think this is very obvious, I'm sure all of you also noticed it, is that if you look at 2019 and 2015, obviously the purchase has increased, okay? So the number of smartphones and computers that were purchased in 2015 versus those that were purchased in 2019. The figure is higher for 2019. It's all the way over here, whereas in 2015 it was all the way down there. So that is the first trend, okay, that the number of smartphones and computers purchased over the years has increased. Okay, so that is one trend that we noticed. What else? So we noticed that in most years, okay, the black bar, which is computers, so the black bar is lower than the gray bar, correct? Which means that the number of computers that were purchased were lower than the number of smartphones that were purchased. But there is one year that did not see this trend. Which is that year? That year is over here, 2017. Here the black bar is higher than the gray bar. Okay, so our odd one out year is 2017, in which for some reason more computers were purchased than smartphones. So this is our second trend that we noticed. Okay, all right, then we also notice that generally there's an upward trend. Okay, so from 2015 to 2016 there was an increase in the purchase of both. Okay, and from 2016 and 2017 also there was an increase, but suddenly from 2017 to 2018 there was a drop. Okay, so this is the third thing we can notice just by looking at the graph, that in the year 2018 number of smartphones and computers that were purchased decreased from 2017. Okay, so the purchase, as Bhagya has correctly pointed out, declined. Okay, Alright, now we've already done 3, so just one more trend to go. So I think the trend that we can see is, because we've already acknowledged that there is a difference in the amount of smartphones and computers that have been purchased, we can quickly just see what the difference is. So here we can see the difference between these two, the higher value and the lower value. So we can see that approximately it ranges between 5 to 15,000. Okay. From the difference between the higher bar and the lower bar in each year, we can see that approximately the range between the difference in the number of smartphones and computers that were purchased is 5 to 15,000. Okay. So this is all the data that we've gotten. Did any of you get any trends that are different from what I got? So if you did, I would love to know if you found a different trend. And if you did, maybe if we have time towards the end, we can even take a look at what your trends were and make sure that they were correct. Okay, so you can post those to me and then we can always come back to them, or I can ask you in the end. Okay. And yes, so that's correct. Bitra says 2019 is the highest. So yes, the purchases that happened in 2019 were the highest overall. Okay, that is very correct. Okay, so Yashad wants to understand the fourth trend again. Okay, so the fourth trend is nothing. So we are seeing that every year has 2 bars, right? One, the gray bar is talking about the number of smartphones that were purchased, and the black bar is talking about the number of computers that were purchased. So a specific number of smartphones were purchased, a specific number of computers were purchased in every year. Okay, and their numbers are different. Why do we know that? Because look at the length of the bars. They're different, right? One is higher, like you can see here, and one is lower. Okay, and so we can see that they're all corresponding to a number on the y-axis, correct? So if we see for 2015, we can assume, okay, this is somewhere around 35,000. Okay. So we can say that somewhere around 35,000 computers were purchased. And if we look at the gray bar, here it is going above 40. So we can assume that somewhere around maybe 45,000 smartphones were purchased. Okay. So from that we can get to the possible approximate value of the number of these things that were purchased. And if we continue to see this throughout the bar, we can see that the difference between the number of smartphones and the number of computers that were purchased lies somewhere between about 5,000 to 15,000. Okay, it doesn't exceed 15,000, it doesn't go below 5,000. It falls somewhere in that range. Okay. So all you're going to do is you're going to find the number it corresponds to on the y-axis, and you're just, for every year, you're going to subtract the lower bar value from the higher bar value, and you will get an approximate difference. Okay. So this is a little bit of mathematics that you might have to do. If you're not able to do this, you can find a different trend, but it is not very difficult to do. Okay. So is that clear? Okay. So we're just observing that the difference ranges between 5 to 15k. It can be 5 to 10k also. So because we have some values that are exceeding, like over here. Now I cannot be absolutely sure if this value is 105,000 or if it's 103,000, 102,000. So we just took the upper limit that it can possibly be. Okay, just to be on the safer side. So depending upon the data that we have and how much we're able to analyze it, I just took the upper limit that it can possibly be. Okay, Yashad, does that make sense? And even if you write 10,000, I'm sure they're not going to mark it as wrong, because it's your reading of the data and you might have more specific data. Okay, so this is a little ambiguous. Okay, so here we have to sort of come up with an approximate, but you might have more specific data and that will make more sense. Okay, there you can come up with a more specific number. Okay, so that's it. 4 trends, clear. So we've gotten our 4 trends, and that's all the information we really need for our paragraph. Okay, is the trends, looking at the graph. Okay, so now the first thing that we're going to write is our introductory sentence. So in our introductory sentence, what are we going to do? We are going to paraphrase the question and title. What does that mean? We're just going to say the title in different words. So whatever the title is telling us, we are going to say it in different words. Okay. Then what are we going to do? We are going to refer to the data as a bar graph, pie chart, or just chart, whatever is applicable. So depending upon what is given to you, you're going to refer it as that. In this case, we are going to refer it as a bar graph because that's what we have. Okay. And so here we can use some phrases that you can keep in mind, and here are the phrases you can take a look. Gives information about, depicts or shows, illustrates. So what is the graph doing? It's providing visual information to us about a specific thing, correct? So we can say it gives us information, we can say it illustrates, we can say it depicts. Okay, depicts means what? It represents. Okay, so we are going to use words like these in our paragraph. Okay, so let's try writing an introductory sentence, and let me use these phrases for you and give you a few examples. So you can say this bar graph gives information about the number of smartphones and computers purchased over 5 years in Rishunagar. Or you can say this chart depicts or shows the sale of smartphones and computers from 2015 to 2019 in Rishunagar. So we said this in two different ways. We can say across 5 years, we can say from 2015 to 2019. Okay, we can use any of these phrases, so that depends on you, whatever you like, however you want to word it. Okay, so let's go ahead and write an introduction. Okay, so here's the introduction we have. This bar graph gives information about the number of smartphones and computers purchased over 5 years in Rishunagar. Very straightforward, no new information. Okay, Bhagya has given us a very nice, so you can't say conveys us information. You're just going to say the given graph conveys information about the number of digital devices purchased in Rishunagar across the years 2015 and 2019. But here you can be more specific. Why are you saying digital devices? Because here we know that it's just smartphones and computers. Digital devices will have a lot of other digital devices. Okay, it could be anything like tablets or some other gadget. Okay, so it's good to be more specific. We know it's giving us information exactly about smartphones and computers, so we will use that. Okay, alright, so this our introduction. I hope it's clear, straightforward. Most of you have gotten it. You're doing a good job. Just small things that you can take care of. Be as specific as you can to set the context for your paragraph. Okay, next we have already identified our trends. Okay, so we won't go over them again, but we'll just see something that you can and cannot do while explaining the trends. So because we have numbers and data given to us, we should use it, right? We are going to use it in our explanation. So when we are explaining the trends that we have found, it's always good to take figures from whatever is given to you and use it in your explanation. So instead of saying the sale of computers in 2017 was much more than 2015, it will help you to use the data to prove what you're saying is correct. So you can say the sale of computers increased by at least 40,000 from 2015 to 2017. Okay, so just looking at the computer bar, which is the black bar, we can see how much it has increased. Okay, and we can use, so because like we said, we don't know the very exact number, we are using words like at least over here. So we know for sure that the sale of computers increased by at least 40,000 from 2015 to 2017. Here now we have used actual data from what was given to us, and that looks very, very nice, and it makes your analytical paragraph more trustworthy because you're citing the data, okay, and you're citing your interpretation or your inference from the data. Okay, so the point of data is to let us know about something, and for us to derive information about something, and that information can be used for research or for other purposes. Okay, so it's good to use numerical data wherever it makes sense and wherever you feel that it is necessary and makes your point stronger. Okay, and the next thing you're going to do is you're going to start from the more obvious and important trend. So the overall trend, okay, you're going to start with that, and then you're going to go to the least important or the very, very, very specific ones, okay? So the most important and the most obvious information that you can get from the graph, you're going to state that first, and then you're going to move on to the information that is not as important, not as obvious, and just very, very specific, okay? So approximately means very, very close to the actual figure, but not exact, okay? So that is what we mean by approximately, okay? Alright, so here we have an example. So instead of being vague and saying the purchases increased from 2015 to 2019, which everybody can see, you can word it better. You can say overall, which is the overall point of the bar graph. Everybody can see and tell that the purchases have increased. So you're stating that overall the purchases of both devices have increased from 2015 to 2019. And the use of the word overall, why is that important? Because in the middle, the number has also dipped. It's not like the number has always gone up. There has been a point from 2017 to 2018 that the number has dipped, but overall it has increased, okay? So if you use words like these, that will make your paragraph that much better, okay? All right. Next. So here is our body that is describing the trends. Let's quickly read it. This bar graph gives information about the number of smartphones and computers purchased over 5 years in Rishunagar. Overall, the purchases of both devices have increased from 2015 to 2019. Except in 2017, number of smartphones purchased has been higher than computers. In the year 2018, number of smartphones and computers purchased decreased from that in 2017. The difference between number of computer and smartphone purchase has remained consistent, which is a difference of 5 to 15,000 maximum. Okay, so we have neatly put up all our trends, starting from the most obvious trend, going to the very, very specific trends, and we have used words like overall and except in to link our sentences. So you can use linking words, you can use moreover, furthermore, in contrast to, additionally, as opposed to. Okay, so words like these will come in handy in your analytical paragraph. And you can also, depending upon the chart, so here we have a bar graph and we formulated a paragraph according to what was given to us, but depending if something else is given to you, you can also use phrases like, you know, the general trend is, the most striking feature, you can use the single biggest, the greatest number of, another substantial point. This we can use here also, another substantial point. So these kind of phrases will help you link your different sentences together so that it flows in a logical progression, okay? All right, and all that's left to us now is coming to our concluding sentence, okay? Here we don't introduce new information. So everything that we wanted to talk about, we've spoken about already in our body, which was the trends. In the concluding sentence, all we're going to do is conclude. So we're going to summarize all that we found, okay? And we are going to have state the main inference. So what is the main inference? Inference is what you have gathered from the data that was given to you. So it's a conclusion or an opinion that you have formed based on the information that you have analyzed. Okay, so you're just going to state your main inference in your concluding sentence, summarize all that you have spoken about, and that's it. So we can use phrases like, nice phrases like to conclude, in conclusion, in a nutshell, to sum up. Okay, so phrases like these help us conclude. So yeah, there we are, to summarize. So here is an example of a concluding sentence that we can have for this particular graph. We said, to conclude, citizens of Rishunagar are increasingly using digital devices and the purchases are likely to increase in the following years as well. Because the trend has gone up, we have no reason to believe that it won't go up further. Okay, so we are saying that it is likely that this will increase in the following year as well, and that's it. That's all. So the format for analytical paragraph is this. I missed who was asking me this question, but this is the format. You're going to give an introduction, you're going to give a you're going to give 4 trends. So you have to find at least 4 trends, okay? And then you're going to give a conclusion. That is your format, okay? And this is just a bad example of what you should not do. You should not say, so this bar graph shows us an increase in purchase of devices. Don't say that, okay? You need to show them that you were able to analyze it and you were able to word it nicely, whatever your analysis is, okay? On the contrary is very good, Yashat. It's a nice phrase. You can definitely use it. Okay. So this is our analytical paragraph. Since we've already read it, there's no reason to read it again. I think it's clear for all of you. So your maximum words that you're going to use is 120, Vishal. 100 to 120 words, okay? Alright. So here's just an example that you can also get a line chart, not necessary that you will get a bar graph. Here also it's easy to read a graph. I'm sure you can all do it. Okay, pie chart, nothing. It's divided into sections or slices of the pie in which information is given to you about a certain thing. Table, again, information is tabulated, very, very easy to read. And that was it for analytical paragraph. Okay, now let's quickly go over argumentative paragraph. So are you all argumentative? Do you argue a lot with your parents and your teachers and your friends? If you do, if you're the kind who likes to argue, let's put it to good use. So instead of arguing with others, we can make arguments for different issues or different things. Okay, so we all have opinions, correct? We are all opinionated people, and it's good to have opinions, but your opinions need to be backed by something. They need to be substantial opinions. You cannot have random opinions, okay? You need to have opinions for a reason. And so in an argumentative paragraph, you are going to give your opinion about something and you're going to give a good reason for it, okay? So Akash loves to debate on social issues, and that's great. That's very good, Akash. Okay, so what again over here in our argumentative paragraph, we'll have introduction, body and conclusion like everything else. But remember, these are not different paragraphs. These are part of one paragraph. You just have to write one paragraph, okay? So what are we going to do here? We're going to present a solution to a problem. Okay, so if you're crying about a certain problem, you should try and come up with a solution for it also. Okay, we can present and justify your opinion on a topic. You can compare and contrast evidence and opinions, and you can evaluate and challenge an idea or an argument. So you can do either of these things. Okay. So here are some sample questions. Let's quickly take a look at them and then we'll go into one in more detail. Okay. Alright, so the ban on single-use plastic is impractical. The purpose of articles like bags and packaging is ultimately to make human life easier. Plastic articles do this well, so they shouldn't be banned. Okay, this is the sample question that you have, and here we can see that a certain position is taken on this particular issue of plastic bags. Okay. So here we can write a paragraph to analyze the given argument. You could think about what alternative explanations might weaken the given conclusion and include rationale or evidence that would strengthen or counter the given argument. So you can agree with this argument, you can disagree with this argument. If you agree with this, you have to give reasons why you agree. If you disagree, again, you have to give reasons why you disagree, but you need to take a stance. It's good to take a stance, either agree with it or disagree with it, okay? And then now let's look at the second question. Space exploration is a luxury that we cannot afford. Instead of spending billions of dollars on space programs, governments should use this money to fight global problems such as poverty. Okay, again, this is a stance that whoever the author of this has taken. Now it's asking you, to what extent do you agree or disagree? Okay, so here from both these paragraphs we can see that, you know, some things are stated as facts and some things are stated as opinions. So let's see, like quickly, if we look at this, the ban on single-use plastic is impractical. The purpose of articles like bags and packaging is ultimately to make human life easier. Now we can't argue with this, okay? It's being stated as a factual statement. Okay, the purpose of articles like bags and packaging is ultimately to make human life easier. Okay, yes, I agree with you. That's the point. It's a fact. Everybody knows. Similarly, over here, it says space exploration is a luxury that we cannot afford. So we all know space exploration is a very, very, very expensive affair. So a lot of money is spent on space exploration. So we cannot argue with that either. So these are factual statements that are given to us. But here we also have some very subjective statements. And what are subjective statements? These you can or cannot agree with. It's up to you. Depends on what your thinking is. Okay, so plastic articles do this well, so they shouldn't be banned. Here you can see there's the word shouldn't. So it's a suggestion that the author of this paragraph is making, that they shouldn't be banned, in my opinion. Okay, similarly here it says instead of spending billions of dollars on space programs, governments should use this money to fight global problems such as poverty. Here instead of. So this is also a suggestion that the author is giving. So instead of spending on space exploration, you should probably spend on this. This is again a personal opinion. Okay. So these things you can easily agree or disagree with. Okay. Alright, so let's quickly look at a question and try making a paragraph. So let's take the space exploration question. Space exploration, we have already read it. So here we are either going to agree or we are going to disagree. So I think we should agree. We will agree with this paragraph, okay? And now here what are we going to do after we agree? We are going to first give a good introduction. So what are we going to do? Three things in the introduction. We're going to summarize the topic in our own words. We've already read the paragraph, so we can summarize what the context of the paragraph is. We will state our perspective. So here we are going to state if we agree with this or if we disagree with this. Then we can outline what will be discussed further in the paragraph. So we can give one sentence that will tell us that what are we going to say further, okay? So should we start the paragraph with agree or disagree, or we write this quite later? So you're going to write this when you state your perspective, Anushri. So you'll see it here. Come on, let's see. Okay, so the first sentence that we do in our first thing that we write about in our introduction is, since many years now, governments have been investing large amounts of money in space exploration programs. This is to get everybody on the same page. So everybody who's reading doesn't know that a lot of money, probably doesn't know that a lot of money is spent on space exploration. So you're just giving that information so that the reader can know what you're talking about. Okay. So after we have given that basic information, we can say many people find such programs exciting. So there are people who find such programs, they think these are useful and exciting. Okay, but in my opinion, these programs are a waste of money. I agree with this view, as the money invested in space programs would be better spent on urgent problems like poverty. So here in our second sentence, what have we said? We have made our perspective clear. In my opinion, these programs are a waste of money. So I agree with the view that the money that we are investing in space exploration can be better spent. And now in our last sentence, what are we doing? We're talking about what we are going to talk about further. So we're just stating would be better spent on urgent problems like poverty. So now the reader knows that after this, what are we going to talk about? We are going to talk about how this money can be spent on poverty. Okay. So this is our introduction. Aishwarya, you can have a diplomatic or a view that both agrees and disagrees, but I would suggest you either agree or disagree. That would make for a stronger argument. If you feel deeply about something, you will make a better argument for it, correct? So it's good to either agree or disagree. If you're very, very, very divided on a topic and you see the pros and cons of it completely, then your last resort could be to talk about the good things and the bad things. But to make a good argument, either agree or disagree. Okay? So here everyone's clear on the introduction. Moving on, we need our body. And so for a good body, what do we need to do? We need to present a clear argument and give reasons. So if you either agree or disagree, you will be able to give more reasons for why you do. Okay, so let's see what our reasons could be and what our argument is. So we had read till here, so moving on from there, Although today people in many countries enjoy a higher standard of living, there are still millions of people living in poverty. Instead of spending on space programs, the money can be better spent towards providing necessities like food, shelter, clothing, and healthcare support. So what is our entire argument? We are saying that while, okay, space exploration is one thing, okay, but here life on planet Earth itself is not that easy for a lot of people. They're struggling to find basic necessities, food, shelter, clothing, all of which are basic human rights. So instead of spending so much money on exploring something that we know nothing about and that is of no immediate use to us, why not spend that money to make lives of millions of people better? Okay, so that is the argument that we are providing over here. Okay, clear? And we've used nice linking words. We said in my opinion, although, instead of. So we used phrases like these to link our sentences together. Okay. Alright, now if you've noticed in the original paragraph, there was poverty and there was disease. Okay. Now since we agree with what the original paragraph is saying, we've already spoken about poverty, so might as well talk about disease also. Let's incorporate that in our paragraph. So as we all know and as we've all been suffering for a long time because of COVID, we can include that in our paragraph, correct? So here, moving on, so we'll start from here. We can say another urgent problem that threatens us all is disease. Global pandemics like SARS and COVID-19 killed millions of people across the globe. It is unacceptable for governments to focus on space exploration rather than improving health infrastructure. So what is a more pressing need for us humans right now? It is to save people from disease. Okay, so instead of using all of this money for space exploration, why not use it to help build more health infrastructure so that when people are rapidly falling ill, they will have enough hospital beds, enough equipment in hospitals like ICUs and oxygen. So that is money better spent in the given circumstances. Okay, so instead of using money for something which has no direct impact on our life right now at the moment, why not spend it on developing health infrastructure, given that we've been suffering from global pandemics like SARS and COVID-19. Okay, so that is our body, that is our argument. We've presented it quite nicely, and now all that's left for us to do is conclude. Okay, so here in the conclusion, what are we going to do? We're going to restate our position. We're going to summarize the main point. So the one big main point, and we will not introduce new ideas. So conclusion is not a space for you to introduce new ideas. Whatever arguments you want to give, you will give it in the body, not in the conclusion. Okay, so here we have a nice conclusion. We can say to sum up again. Start with a phrase like in conclusion, to summarize, in a nutshell, to sum up, phrases like these. And we can say to sum up, space exploration is a luxury we cannot afford. We must solve the urgent problems on this planet before exploring rest of the universe. Okay, so it very neatly sums up what we are trying to say, that we have more urgent and pressing problems than space exploration. Okay, so here is our argumentative paragraph. If you want to quickly take a look at it, go ahead, read it once more so you can see how everything is flowing in a logical progression. Okay, so it's the same word limit. I'm going to follow the same word limit. And yes, Anushri, thanks for giving us the full form of SARS. Yes, Bitra, you can tell me what your doubt is. And yes, Yashat, a lot of people around the world are living in poverty. Bitra, you can ask me your doubt. Yes, Charvi, there will be an option, so you can choose whichever one you want to attempt. So Bitra, I believe it's the same, 100 to 120 words. That should be your limit. Tanushri, you're giving me arguments for why spending on space exploration is a good thing, which is a stance that you can definitely take. So just because I've given you an example of agreeing with the paragraph doesn't mean you cannot disagree with the paragraph. You can very well disagree with the paragraph. So whatever argument you want to make, just make sure you have enough facts for it. So I missed the comment, I couldn't read all of it, but I believe it had something to do with communication, technology, GPS, and all of that. So you have very valid and great points. Okay, so space exploration can help in a number of ways as was suggested by you, and if you can substantiate all of these points, you can take that stance. And yes, Charvi, you can disagree with the paragraph on plastic. You can always say that there are alternatives to plastic. If you want to use bags, you can use jute bags or things that are made up of natural fibers that can help you. Okay, so you can definitely take any stance that you want as long as you can substantiate your argument. Okay, and that's it for today. So we've got you covered like always. And we have an upcoming session on 18th January, which is on literature. It will be poems, and we'll be covering Amanda, animals, and the tale of Custard the Dragon. So these 3 poems are what we'll cover in the next session. So don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like, and don't go anywhere because we have something exciting coming up for you. A lot of you love quizzes. Papiya's already very, very excited. So just, as you know, go to www.menti.com. Here is your code. Enter the code and we will have a very exciting quiz on the writing section. Okay, so that starts at 6. I hope to see all of you there. And to quickly answer Charvi's question, no, it will not put a bad impression on the examiner. This is not the examiner's point of view. This is just a random point of view picked up from some article from a magazine or a newspaper or the internet. Okay? And you are entitled to your own opinions. You are always entitled to your own opinions. So don't worry. Okay? Alright, so see you all there. And you will not need to type in Menti, it will be multiple choice. Okay, thank you all of you, and see you very soon. See you in 7 minutes. Alright, bye-bye. See you.